Now, Police Minister Bheki Cele released the crime statistics in the second quarter of this year. Cele says over 6,163 people were murdered in the country between July and September this year, an increase of 20.7% compared to the previous term. For more on this and reaction to that story, we are now joined by Popcru spokesperson Richard Mamabolo. Richard, good evening and thank you very much for your time. A picture of crime has been painted in the country. As a representative of police, how do you feel about that picture? Are you happy with that picture? And what are your concerns around that picture?
Look, we're not happy at all about the picture, but however, we know that the circumstances which led to these statistics over the period of 3 months were mainly due to the fact that there had been uprisings in mainly KZN and Gauteng. So those had obviously increased the numbers to the amount that it is in. Otherwise, with regards to the fluctuations of percentages, we have not really seen huge increases or decreases. That, of course, is worrying as well, because the fact of the matter is that statistics, collecting statistical data is aimed at ensuring that police get sufficient information and actually know which areas are hotspots so that they then develop plans around how to deal with some of these challenges. Yes. One of the worrying factors is the fact that within this specific period of time, we have lost over 23 police officers. So it says a lot about the kind of relations that police and communities do have. And of course, when there aren't significant changes with regards to statistics, it therefore means that police do not have the capacity to actually be everywhere at the same time. That, of course, speaks to the underlying challenges that we've been talking about as the union. But however, as well, it means that there needs to be more efforts in ensuring that resources are found. Yeah. Another problem has obviously been the rape levels. I think they've been on an increase, and the identified areas, which is in the Eastern Cape, in Thohoyandou, in Temba, and in Lusikisiki, demonstrate the fact that there has not as well been sufficient efforts in dealing with some of these challenges, because if you remember in the last statistics outcomes, those areas were targeted, and of course there has not been any change up to so far. So it is quite something that needs to be dealt with with regards to how the SAPS, rather the National Commissioner, is to approach all these instances.
Yeah, two things that you're mentioning. One is more resources deployed, but also you're saying there needs to be a little bit more research and data that is given to the police so that they have the right plans in place. Do you think right now we have put the right plans in place and we have deployed the right kind of resources that are required? There's enough literature now to really tell us that the social and economic disadvantages, right, that exist within South Africa are a huge contributing factor towards the high levels of crime that we see. However, there are things, for example, that we can do about them. On the crime rate, for example, that police can get involved more, for example, with community policing forums and do the work that needs to be done in ensuring that there's a degree of visibility at neighborhood level, but also there's good work that needs to happen, for example, around corporates, South Africa, building good relationships with the local law enforcement agencies. Are we doing those things?
Look, most definitely you're correct in your assessment. However, I think with regards to the research, rather, statistics are supposed to provide that leeway. You know, every time when statistics are released, we're supposed to compare them to the last ones and look into what has been done if there are no significant decreases in crime levels, as with the point with the issue around Lusikisiki and Thohoyandou. So that demonstrates that as much as the SAPS might know about the challenges and what needs to be done, however, the underlying challenges which they are currently facing prevent them from actually acting out in a manner that would be satisfactory and in ensuring that we move towards a different path. Because over the years, the statistics have not been increasing or decreasing at a significant level. So definitely, that means that we obviously as well need to ensure that we develop relations between communities and police. And of course, that would obviously be one of the main factors which would lead to the reduction in the levels of crime that we find within our communities. Again, look at the last statistics, just around June, the last ones demonstrated that there were high levels of gender-based violence. Now, and that was mainly because of the lockdown levels, which were confining people to their homes. And now that the levels have been reduced, the levels of gender-based violence have decreased. However, that also meant that more criminal activities, other criminal components would increase because people have got access to be everywhere around during most of the time, you see. Yeah. So it's some form of balance that we need to create in improving relations between communities and police.
The whole issue that we're reporting on now of a rise in number of kidnappings, particularly around the schooling precinct, right? What needs to happen here? What are the factors, firstly, that you think are contributing towards that, and what do we need to do to intervene?
Yes, the kidnapping cases are quite worrying. In fact, the numbers are staggering. Here is 2,000 that was reported. So they are mainly for robbery purposes, for human trafficking, and of course for ransom. I think the recent ones that we've seen were meant for ransom. So I think, well, in terms of that, I would imagine that the social media platforms that we do have, of course, play a bigger role, because sometimes keeping your family matters private is quite key in ensuring that you do not have people who are clearly out there looking at who's got what resources and how they can actually benefit from those. I think that has been the trend. But we also know that there's been a lot of human trafficking, especially from different rural areas and neighboring countries, wherein those people are brought to bigger cities like Johannesburg for other ill gains for those who would obviously be trafficking them. And that, of course, is something that would need the SAPS to look into some form of intelligence-led policing, which would ensure that all such matters are uncovered. But again, communities as well need to get involved in ensuring that information is circulated and that police get the best kinds of briefs that will obviously lead to the arrest of some of these perpetrators. Because at the end of the day, nothing can be done without the involvement of communities.
Now, Richard, of course, you would know this because as Popcru, you've reacted to this, the matter at Misty Hills in Milders Drift. And people who are watching that have given various reactions to it. But the other question that has come is around the standard of training of our police officers and policing practices to, for example, de-escalate events and situations like that one. Do you think we acted in the best kind of way as police officers in that context?
Look, if we want to deal with issues around policing training, let's treat it as a separate issue, because what happened in that video, police, of course, had to act in a manner that they did due to the fact that their lives were at risk, and nobody can deny that. However, with regards to training, I think one of the issues that we have mentioned has been the budget cuts that have obviously had a negative impact. You remember as well that there hasn't been any form of training within the SAPS, training colleges over the past 2 years due to COVID-19. But as well, even before that, we still had challenges where there would be shortage of ammunition due to the resources that are being cut by the then Minister of Finance. And I think looking at what is currently happening, it seems as if public sector workers are obviously not going to enjoy any benefits, because there are already threats of cutting down on the public service budget. That means lesser resources for police. That means lesser tools of trade for policemen and women. And of course, that sometimes means that there would be lesser training platforms wherein they could obviously ensure that they upkeep their skills. And as a union, we've said that we do recognize that training is quite important in dealing with different scenarios. So training should obviously be something that is done not only once when a person graduates through the colleges, but it should be something that is at least done on a yearly basis, so that people can keep up with the different skills. And of course, training now, crime is changing regularly. So we also not we're looking at focusing only on physical training, but we need to obviously adapt to the kind of criminal activities and networks that are obviously evolving with So it's quite important that that happens. That needs a budget, rather. So without any form of budget and with the budget cuts that have been coming from government, we are not looking at likely achieving some of the goals that we seek to achieve, as committed by the President of the Republic of South Africa when he said within the next decade we should have halved violent crimes. The staff complement of the SAPS is declining. Police are dying on a daily basis, yet there have not been any formidable plans to deal with some of these aspects.
Richard Mamabolo, I appreciate your time speaking for Popcru there, reacting, of course, to the second quarter crime stats released by Police Minister Bheki Cele.